And welcome back to Live at 5 at 4. The Holocaust was a dark time in human history, but in January, those who suffered and perished will be given a voice through an extraordinary program that is coming to Knoxville. It's called Violins of Hope, Strings of the Holocaust. And here with more is Miriam Esther Wilhelm from the Stanford Eisenberg Knoxville Jewish Day School. We appreciate you being with us. We're going to hopefully play some sound for you in a moment of this effort. It includes 50 violins. It's incredible that they're making their way to Knoxville. They've traveled to certain cities across the U.S. and across the world. Talk about this effort and how special it is that it's coming to East Tennessee.
Yeah, so this is a huge deal being worked on for months. The violins are a collection of about 50 violins that have been restored by Amnon Weinstein in Israel, and he and his son Avshi are now trying to bring these violins to the world and to tell their stories and to share their music once again. These violins haven't played for years. So they've been to about 5 cities in the U.S. Knoxville's probably the smallest city so far to be getting them, but the Knoxville Jewish Day School has decided to bring this opportunity to the city to give people the opportunity to hear their stories and to learn their messages. These violins have survived ghettos, concentration camps.
Wow.
I mean, the most difficult situations, and they tell the stories of injustice, of suffering, but yet of hope and resilience.
We have a clip now I want to show. Now you're going to hear from a lot of the violins during the performance. Talk about that. Will they all be played at the same time?
So the performance will be Haller and Hilton Hill will be narrating and telling some of the stories. The violins will be played. There will be some solo violins. There will be probably about 30 violins played during the performance as part of the symphony. And then there will also be actors and actresses acting some of the stories of the violins and of the time period as well. So it'll be all of that coming together to tell the stories of the violins and to hear the music of the violins.
Because each violin has a different story.
Correct. And Amnon and his Avshi have done amazing work to find the stories of the violins, and any violin that they were able to find the exact story about they have, and a lot of that will be on display at the exhibit at the Downtown Gallery on Gay Street at the UT Downtown Gallery from January 4th to the 27th with the stories. And the violins that don't have a specific story, they weren't able to identify enough details, they have connected to a story from the Holocaust.
Wow, it's just incredible. And Violins of Hope, appropriately titled. You were saying this could make a great gift idea during the holidays.
Absolutely. There are 2 performances on January 23rd and 24th. And it would be a wonderful gift, a meaningful gift that has the arts, cultural ties. So much comes together in these performances. Tickets can be bought at violinsofhopeknox.com. And it would be a wonderful gift to give during this holiday season.
I imagine it's a very moving performance and emotional as well.
Yes, yes.
All right, we just showed you the information. Run down the dates one more time.
January 23rd and 24th at the Historic Tennessee Theater. And again, there will be music, acting, narration. It'll be a very meaningful performance that will both share the stories of the violins, but also the message of hope, of resilience, of acceptance, of inclusion, and empower the audience to take action to make this world a better place.
Absolutely, and it will be at the Tennessee Theater. We thank you so much for coming on and providing our community with this incredible opportunity.
Thank you for the opportunity.